President Carpenter, can you turn on the mic?
Very
Thank you.
much. Okay. The regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, 9:30 Laguna Woods. Now calls the meeting to order. So Director Dobson, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I acknowledge the media. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Are there any objections? If there are no objections, the approval of the agenda is approved unanimously.
President Carpenter, can you let me know who first and seconded the motion?
No motion.
It doesn't have to be second, first and second, a motion on an approval of agenda. Am I correct?
Right, you just,
Okay, thank you. She's a excuse me, Robert's Rules expert, so I
Thank you.
always lean to her to verification. Thank you. Okay. The next item would be the approval of the minutes of January 20th, 2022, GRF agenda prep meeting. Are there any additions or deletions? Are there any objections?
I'm sorry. I was getting too ready, and I'm obviously stumbling over my words. Please excuse me, Madam Chair. Did you just talk about the approval of the agenda? Is that where we're at?
We approved the agenda.
I have something I'd like to propose, and it's for the closed meeting. Please excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
I was ready, though.
Okay, you're just practicing. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Bunny?
So are there any additions or direct?
Yes, on the Revenue Resource Ad Hoc Committee,
Wait a minute.
my friend here, Elsie Addington, her name isn't on here, so can we add that?
Well, we would add it after the committee is established. So
Okay,
we're
okay,
just
I
establishing
just want
it
to get
and
it out
approve
there.
it, and then we'll add the people that will be involved in it, and that will be approved, ratified at the next meeting. But you can all go ahead and start being on the committee, no problem. Okay.
But Madam Chair, I asked for this correction at the last board meeting also.
Okay,
Just a reminder.
wait, you're talking about the committee, the appointments of the committees.
Yeah,
Point
I
of
get
order,
that.
we are on approval of the minutes
Yeah,
yeah, I know.
from January 20th. Now you say there's something missing on the minutes?
okay, when we get to the approval of the committee appointments, then we'll make the corrections to that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Excuse me.
if there are no other,
Okay, so we're at any additions or corrections to the January 20th, 2022 agenda prep meeting? Are there any objections? If there are no objections, the approval of the minutes January 20th, 2022 are approved by unanimous consent. Excuse me. So the next item would be the approval of the minutes of February 1st, 2022, GRF Board Regular Open Session. Are there any additions or corrections? So if there are no, are there any objections? If there are no objections, the February 1st, 2022 GRF Board Regular Open Session is approved by unanimous consent. So report of the chair, excuse me, is the only thing I'm going to mention that's coming up is the meeting on March 8th in Clubhouse 7, and everyone will be notified of that. And that will be on March 18th, I'm sorry. And that will be the meeting where we will present the bus contract. And we're inviting everybody in the community that wants to have input on it. And then after the meeting, everybody want to know what the next step. We'll have a group of people getting together, talking about the terms and conditions. And the other one, which is a closed meeting on March 3rd for the GRF board, because we are going to be looking at space planning. And that will be the space planning for this building. And they will be expecting at that meeting to approve some of the space planning. So the next item would be,
Madam Chair,
yes?
on the issue with the bus contract, it's not a contract yet, so we are discussing proposal, I assume, because there is no contract. Because
Correct.
that gives different information that we have a contract and we're discussing contract.
No, we don't have a contract. In the presentation, it actually talks about
It's a
the
proposal.
elements and the
Okay.
provisions that they
Thank
would
you.
like included in the contract. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So the next item would be the CEO report. Siobhan Buster.
Thank you, Honorable President, members of the board. I just have two brief announcements this morning that I'd like to share. First of all, there have been some questions lately about perimeter fencing and how we inspect that fencing. And I want to let the board and residents know that security performs daily perimeter checks, focusing on potential breaches. Staff checks the perimeter on foot in the less accessible areas. Once security identifies a breach, the area is cordoned off. A service request is completed for repair. Yellow tape helps designate the location for repair for our repair staff. And if you see something, please say something. You can report fencing breaches during the day to resident services or security dispatch. And if you notice anything after hours, please notify security dispatch, and it will be taken care of right away. And then secondly, we want to share a couple organics recycling reminders to the residents. As you know, this program is just getting started, and we've noticed some trends that are happening, and we want to bring our residents' attention to them. First, we're asking that residents do not relocate organics recycling carts. Carts will not be serviced if they're not in their designated areas. If you see a cart that has been moved from its designated area, please email lagunawoods-recycles@crrmail.com. And secondly, we're asking residents not to place prunings in the organics recycling carts. Green waste is accepted in organics carts, but to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to recycle organics and use carts for food waste, we don't want them filled with pruning materials. You can call resident services to schedule a Friday clippings pickup to help with the clippings. And that concludes my update this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the open forum. At this time, members only may address the Board of Directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of this Board of Directors. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum to 30 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum. Speakers may not give their time to other people, no audio or video recording by attendees, and no rude and threatening comments. Members can attend the meeting by joining the Zoom link 981-312-57242 or call 1-669-900-6833 or email meeting@vmsinc.org and have your message read during the open forum. So are there any speakers?
Yes, we do have a few. The first one is Rhoda Lidner, Manor 2013C.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's so nice for us all to be here in person, in the flesh. It's just wonderful. Glad to see you. I wanted first to talk about the organic recycling. There's an aspect of that that I haven't heard anybody mention and haven't read anywhere that is absolutely wonderful. In those pretty green covered carts, if we are putting all our food waste in there, we are probably, if we're doing that, we are not using our disposals. And our disposals use a tremendous, all disposals use a tremendous amount of water. If you're going to keep the disposal working, and if you're going to not hurt your plumbing with the stuff you put in the disposal, you must use a lot of water. And so all of us have been happily, very happily, using a lot of water for a lot of years. That really, now that we cannot throw food waste in the trash and we have to throw it in these pretty little new bins, we could stop using our disposals. And if you stop using, if many of us stopped using our disposals, we would save a lot of water. And if we publicize that and put up some kind of giant poster at each gate, like we did 20 years ago for some reason, I don't remember what, put up a giant poster at each gate showing the water usage going down, 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 then we could get more people doing it, even people who are not Californians and are not in the habit of saving water and have to learn how to save water. This is a very good time to teach them not to use the disposal, but to throw it in the green bin. So I want to say that. I've used more time on that than I intended to.
We're not having the timer going, do you know?
Oh,
The timer
No.
is going. She has about 40 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
yes, I see that. I used more time than I meant to. You said March 18th in Clubhouse 7. Is that a change from Clubhouse 5?
I thought originally it was going to,
It's in Clubhouse 5, and it's
Okay,
on
thank
Bus
you.
Route 1 for our bus riders.
Right, but that may sound good, but it isn't. It's almost impossible for a bus rider to get to Clubhouse 5 by 10 o'clock because Bus 1 is a 1-hour route. It leaves Clubhouse 1 at 9, gets to Clubhouse 5 at 9:12, and doesn't come back to Clubhouse 1 to pick up any 9:30 people. So we need some kind of shuttle at 9:30.
Speaker's time is up.
okay, so,
President Carpenter, we can look into that.
You.
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I also think we need a Freedom of Information Act around here so that we really know how you think we're benefiting from this age well thing. I can't imagine any way in which we benefit.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker is Chris Collins, Manor 3306Q.
Good morning. I'm here with an update on the work of the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village, which is on behalf of village residents who are experiencing temporary financial crisis. 25 years and still going. Silver anniversaries are special, and the Foundation's is no exception. The Foundation of Laguna Woods Village will be celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, having begun in May of 1997. This milestone is really a tribute to the village, which has sustained it and made it possible, making our motto, which is neighbors helping neighbors, a reality. In fact, Laguna Woods Village is unique in the creation and continuation of its own homegrown charity, which focuses on the needs of village residents. As to the foundation start, the story has been handed down from board to board, and it relates that there was a heavy rain and flooding period during the 96-97 years, which damaged a number of manors. So with the encouragement of our social services department, some very caring residents got together and arranged to give money to those people in the community needing aid in packing and moving as a result of the rain. This group of donors realized that they had fulfilled a very important need in the village and decided to formalize the arrangement. Hence, in 1997, they established an organization which is called the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village. More recently, though, through the support of the village, the foundation has spent over $1.2 million to ensure the well-being of the village over the past 5 years. Among its traditional services are the foundation provides funding for Meals on Wheels, Alzheimer's Day Service scholarships, and individual resident financial assistance. We would welcome your input. If you have suggestions about needs which could be addressed by the foundation, please contact the foundation at 949-268-2246 or foundation@comline.com. And for more information about how the foundation achieves its motto, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, please go to our website, which is thefoundationoflagunawoodsvillage.org. Thank you.
Chris, can you repeat the phone number again? It went pretty fast.
Yeah, it's 949-268-2246. That's the foundation phone number. But we have really great information on our website, so that's a good place to really see all the things that are going on. Thank you.
Next speaker is Karen Shore, Manor 40123G.
Good morning. I understand that the purpose of GRF is to provide services and community facilities to the membership. GRF is essential to the management of the community by maintaining the rules and policies that help guide BMS, particularly the Recreation Department, to manage room rentals at our community facilities. Homeowners agree to comply with the governing documents, which includes paying our monthly dues. When we comply with the rules and pay dues on time, we remain in good standing and are entitled to take advantage of our right to use the community facilities. Per the anti-discrimination policy, GRF is committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment for all residents. Clubs must be in compliance with all GRF rules, which supersede any conflicting rules made by a club. According to the Recreation and Special Events Department policies and procedures, no club which uses community facilities should violate GRF rules or interfere with the rights of the other GRF members or users of GRF facilities. Currently, some Laguna Woods Village clubs events stated that they will require COVID-19 vaccination records or a COVID-19 test result as a requirement to attend events that take place in our community facilities. This stipulation is blatantly exclusionary to those residents reluctant to disclose their private medical information. I believe that exclusion of these residents from club events wrongly interferes with their contractual rights to use community facilities, causing harm to them by diminishing their enjoyment that should be made available to them. Do Recreation Department policies permit clubs to exclude a resident in good standing from attending a club event that's advertised to residents to be held in our community facilities? I believe the GRF directors have a moral responsibility to stop permitting non-inclusive, unwelcoming club events as described above, which only contribute to divisiveness in this community. Clubs should be encouraged by GRF to plan events in our community facilities that are inclusive and welcoming to all residents and guests. Another solution, not attending events when ill, could be recommended by GRF. Social distancing at events when risk of respiratory infection is a concern could also be encouraged. Again, I ask my question, do the Recreation Department policies permit clubs to exclude residents in good standing from attending a club event advertised to residents to be held in the community facilities? I look forward to your answer. Thank you.
Next, we have Michael Landry, Manor 693B.
Hi, Michael Andrews, 693B. I'm sure this might have been addressed before. I'm calling about, asking about the recycling of kitchen refuse. I'm sure everybody's concerned about where these buckets are, where we can deposit our kitchen leavings. I'm not a cripple, I can walk, but mine is about 2/3 of a mile, the closest one to my place. And when we look at the map of where these are, I double dog dare y'all to figure out how the hell to find it. They're really difficult. If we're going to do it, I want to do this. I want to do this so badly I can taste it, and I don't like the taste of garbage. But it would be nice to be able to do all of this recycling correctly. If we're just going to play lip service to it, well, okay, we did it. Are we getting the minimum of what we have to do in order to get by? I don't like that idea. And I have to say, in response to the previous speaker, I'm all for vaccinations. We need to be vaccinated. We need to have proof of it. I don't want to go to an event that is sanctioned by this village and get sick because of some person who refused to take a scientifically proven vaccine. I don't think that's infringing on anybody's rights. It's infringing on my rights to expose me to a disease. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
No, there is not.
Okay. Pardon?
Online, emails?
None online?
No, none online.
Okay, thank you. So the next, dry throat. Already had COVID, so I'm not coming down with COVID. So, okay, so the next item is the consent calendar. Oh, I'm sorry, the responses. So dry throat distracted me. Okay, do we have any responses to the first? Okay, Debbie.
I'd like to respond to Ms. Shore by saying that our moral responsibility as the board of GRF is to protect the 17,000 plus residents in our community. And it is to wear a mask, to provide a proof of vaccine is a small price to pay to keep this senior community safe. And HIPAA is only your private health information protected by HIPAA laws is between healthcare providers, not between people. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to go on record on this meeting to say that I find your comments to be very disturbing to me, that people want to protect other people. I'm sorry that you don't. Thank you.
Am I allowed to respond?
No?
Irrelevant to my comment.
Okay, Diane, we do not have a debate here.
Buddy?
Okay, John?
Ms. Shore, I'd like to add that GRF is not responsible for the club's rules. The clubs can make their own rules and enforce them, and that's why you're running into the problem. And we can't really say, we don't dictate to the clubs how they behave.
I understand that they cannot conflict with GRF rules. GRF rules supersede.
Well, they don't.
Well, it's in your documents, I'll just say that.
Is there any more comments to the, okay, Juanita?
The recreation policy specifically says that each club can do their own requirements. So it is not against GRF or recreation policy if they make different rules. Each club has that right.
Unless it's against your discrimination policy.
Okay, Reza?
If, as an individual, I rent a GRF facility to have a function, I set up the rule for that function. I follow all the GRF rules, but that's my function. Clubs are private. They get membership, and they want to protect their membership. They have a right to say that if you want to come to my function, you have to be, vaccinated or show a proof of vaccination, and that's the right too. So we cannot infringe on different rights. I don't want to discuss it further. I just want to say that what is the right or not.
I agree with you. They have the right to make up their own rules, but GRF has the responsibility to make sure.
Okay, Karen, no debate. We're not debating. Okay, thank you. No, I want this ended. We do not debate here. We respond to your question, and that is what's appropriate, and you do not have be able to respond to us. We're just giving you the information. Thank you. Yvonne?
The other question that came up about the organic facility, I assume that that is not done yet because not all of the places have the unit there too. So if you're walking now, as soon as they bring the other units in and put it in your area, you don't have to walk. That's my understanding. I think Siobhan have more information on that.
Yes, I can answer that very briefly, and I've asked our General Services Director to give Mr. Landry a call. All the containers have currently been placed. However, we are doing an analysis in the field to see if there are impediments to those locations. If they're too far, if they have to walk uphill, for instance, and other items are being evaluated. So the locations could switch. And then we have our first quarterly assessment of how we're doing. That'll occur in April. So once we have that information too, we can determine if additional locations need to be added.
Okay, are there any other remarks? Yvonne?
On a positive note, I would like to thank the foundation for all their good works.
Yes. Thank you. All right, thank you. Are there any other responses? The 3 items were the, because I couldn't write it down. No. Okay, thank you. So if there are no other responses, we will go on to the, okay.
Can I make a comment, not a debate?
You speak only once. No.
That's not for all of us, is it?
Yeah, there's no, it's not allowed in this forum, I'm sorry. Okay, we don't want to turn into a debate here, we'd like to get on with our business, thank you. All right. So the next item is the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended by action by committees and will be enacted by the board with one motion. In the event an item is removed from the consent calendar by members of the board, such item will be subject to further discussion and action by the board. So the recommendation from the Finance Committee consists with the statutory obligations, a subcommittee of the board consisting of the treasurer and at least one other board member reviewed and approved preliminary Golden Rain Foundation financials for the month of January 2022. By this vote, ratify that such review be confirmed this month, board member open session meeting minutes. And then there's an update to the officer resolution and an update to the committee appointments. So, Joan, I think that there was supposed to be just one other that Yvonne had mentioned, addition to the committee appointments, but we don't need, we can just accept that edit and then approve.
It just wasn't put on?
Right, right, it was just
It was
oversight,
oversight.
yeah. So we just need to add Elsie onto it was the revenue resource, is that correct? Okay,
Elsie added, okay,
yeah,
for GRF.
right. So we do have a resolution here for the updating the officers. I think you need to read that.
All right. Give me a second. Yeah. Yes, we're updating the officers. This is Resolution 90-22-XX. Appointment of officers. Resolved March 1st, 2022 pursuant to Golden Rain Foundation bylaws, which sets guidelines, terms, and responsibilities for the election of officers to this corporation. The following persons are hereby elected to the office indicated next to their names to serve. President Bunny Carpenter, First Vice President Egon Garthoffner, Second Vice President Debbie Dotson, Secretary Joan Milliman, Treasurer James Hopkins. And resolved further that the following staff is hereby appointed as ex officio officers to this corporation, and these are the changes. Siobhan Foster is appointed Vice President ex officio. Carlos Rojas is appointed Assistant Secretary ex officio. And Steve Hormuth is Assistant Treasurer ex officio. Further resolved that Resolution 90-2144, adopted November 10th, 2021, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are directed on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. Now, this is part of the consent calendar, so if we don't change anything, they're approved.
Right. Are there any, yes?
Juanita?
I would like to move the consent calendar.
I second it. She moved to approve.
Okay,
I second it. We
okay.
don't take a vote.
All right, are there any objections? So no objections?
Approved.
It's, it's approved unanimously. Thank you. All right. We have no unfinished business, but the new business is to entertain a motion to establish an insurance ad hoc committee.
Wait a minute.
So would you read the resolution?
Working on it. Sorry. Well, you know what? Yeah, here it is. Sorry.
That's okay.
I got it, finally. Sorry. Resolution 90-22-XX, Insurance Ad Hoc Committee. Whereas the formation of an Insurance Ad Hoc Committee is being considered by the Board of Directors pursuant to Article 7, Section 7.1.2, and Section 7.5 of the bylaws of this corporation. And whereas the primary mission of the Insurance Ad Hoc Committee is to research and evaluate risk management alternatives for Laguna Woods Village. And whereas the duties and responsibilities of the Insurance Ad Hoc Committee are to, 1, take into consideration the current insurance pricing and unique requirements of GRF and each housing mutual, including but not limited to consolidating valuation assessments in an effort to lower overall costs while managing risk, and 2, make recommendations for the entire community. Now, therefore, be it resolved, March 1st, 2022, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the mission statement, duties, and responsibilities of the Insurance Ad Hoc Committee. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move that we approve this resolution for the Insurance Ad Hoc Committee. Second.
You have a second? Okay.
Who seconded? Who? Who seconded?
Reza.
Reza. Okay.
Yeah. Is there any discussion? No objections?
Yeah,
I didn't hear what she said.
discussion from the audience.
Okay.
I was just wondering if the mutuals were being included in this ad hoc committee.
Yes, they will be.
Okay, so they'll be solicited from the membership or just the boards? or-
Well, when, the process is that when it's approved, then the presidents actually give the names of the people that want to be on that ad hoc committee. They choose them, and then it's going to be ratified the meeting, following meeting.
How do they apply? How
Yeah.
did they apply?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the communication to the membership, if that's going to be.
How do they apply to be on the committee?
To their mutual president.
Okay,
Yes,
through your mutual president.
So they should be communicating with the membership, presidents will
With the
communicate.
president.
okay, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going to be open to everybody in the community for this ad hoc committee. So if you want to be an advisor, since I'm going to be the chair of that, then you can contact me and we'll talk about it.
Okay,
But
I know
we're-
someone else that wants to, so they can contact you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right,
And
thank you.
they also have to be approved. Okay. Thank you. Okay, where are we, Joan? All right.
All in favor?
Okay.
Unless there's more discussion.
All right, there's no further discussion? Are there any objections? If there are no objections, it is approved unanimously. I forget what word I'm supposed to use. Okay, all right, so the next item of business is basically if you would like to take a 5-minute break. And we've moved along quickly, so I don't know, no break. Okay, you want to move on? All right. Okay,
What's coming up next, and I'll go on my own.
well, we have the reports next.
I'm first up on after him, so I'll wait.
Okay, all right. All right, so we'll start with committee reports. Jim Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to remind everybody that January financials are seldom an indicator of trends, as businesses, including our own, are involved in closing the books. Many processes will be delayed. So other than payroll, and obviously payroll is always done judiciously and accurately and on time. But many other processes within payment structure, et cetera, will move maybe a week or two down. So the point is January is not an indicator of trends. All right? So with that said, through the reporting period through January 31st, GRF had a net revenue of $545,000 with a total revenue of $3.8 million. All right. The GRF was better than budget by $466,000, with the total expense coming in at $770,000, lower than anticipated. The favorable results seen in the expenses were offset by lower revenues. And those lower revenues, by the way, the lower bottom line is really is an indication of unrealized losses within our investments. And unrealized losses are non-cash losses. They're basically our portfolio went down in the month of January. It's a portfolio of bonds. And so we are seeing that loss in that. Next, please. In finance, we also keep a close look on the operating portion of the financial results. The operating fund, that is without depreciation, shows a favorable variance of $690,000 through the reporting period, with expense better than budget by $777,000. It's offset by the revenue, which is a little bit worse than budget, by $87,000. We're on chart 3. Okay. Chart 3 now, that's right. Okay. The next chart shows the reserve and restricted revenues and expenses. Together, these funds show an unfavorable variance of $224,000 through the reporting period, with revenue worse than budget by $219,000 and expense worse than budget by $5,000. Again, these are not trends. Next slide, please. This slide shows our most significant variances by category, with the green bars representing favorable variances and the orange bars representing unfavorable items. As you can see, our cable programming expense is favorable by $270,000. Our employee compensation is favorable by $246,000. The employee compensation is due primarily to open positions, and that's primarily in recreation services and security services. The material and supplies of $132,000 was due to timing of materials needed at the clubhouse, golf maintenance, and fleet maintenance. The outside services positive variance was due to less janitorial services utilized during the closure of most clubhouses and the timing of services needed for fleet maintenance and recreation facilities. Again, you heard timing there several times, and that's an indication of it's January. Unfavorable variance is reflected in broadband service revenue of $73,000, and is lower due to the number of high-speed internet subscribers, it's due to a lower number of new high-speed internet subscribers. It's lower than anticipated, and less ad insertion revenue. Slide 5, please. We have resources of revenue other than assessments, such as fees and rentals. To date, we have received over $746,000 in non-assessment operating revenue. And you can see by the pie chart, it's the normal pie chart, broadband services followed by golf revenue services and then clubhouse rental fees, and then other revenues and merchandise services. So it's the normal trend. In this case, we're seeing, we did just one change. We took out the trust facilities fees in this chart because the trust facilities fees are not operating. They go right directly into the reserve fund. So this is more reflective of the operating expenses in terms of their revenue. I'm sorry, operating revenue. Next chart, please. Now, slide 6 shows the operating expenses that are just under $2.8 million. And this excludes depreciation, which we used to put in that pie. This shows that compensation, insurance, and professional legal are our top expense percentages, with revenue, with compensation, employee compensation, 70%. And of course, this reflects the exclusion of depreciation, which is non-cash, again. This is reflective of a trend in terms of the percentage of expenses. Next chart, please. This chart is the reserve and restricted funds showing the adjusted balances. Starting with the first column on the left, the reserve funds have a combined ending balance of $30.7 million. Restricted fund balances have an ending balance of $2.2 million. And this includes the contributions received through the year through assessments, trust facility fees, and investment earnings. The second column shows the work in process of $2.1 million for reserves and $43,000 for restricted reserves, reflecting in amounts paid for projects but are not yet complete. The third column represents the resulting adjusted fund balances, which is $28.6 million for the reserve and $2.2 million for the restricted being the contingency fund. Slide 8, please. This slide shows the resale history from 2020 through 2022. The community-wide sales totaled 96 through January 31st. Most of the transactions do generate the trust facilities fee, which this year increased from $5,000 to $7,500. So you can see we're quite a bit above, we're actually twice what January sales in 2020 and roughly 20% higher, 30% higher than in 2022. It's a good trend, if it is a trend. January is not a trend. Slide 9, please. Now, this is a listing. It gives you an idea of where the reserve money is committed. Of the $14.8 million appropriated by the board for various projects, appropriation, basically, they've been reserved in the budget, either in prior years or the current year. Okay? And the remaining encumbrance against our reserves and contingency is $11 million, primarily for renovation projects. The restricted funds have total appropriations of $50,000 remaining. We'll go into some detail on that at future meetings. Slide 10, please. When we look at our adjusted fund balances historically, we see that the balances for the past 5 years have averaged $24 million and currently stand at just under $30 million. That completes my report. Any questions? Okay, I guess the next is the Finance Committee report. Oh, sorry.
You have a question?
Yes.
Well, I have a comment.
Okay.
I would like to personally thank Director Hawken and the Media Communications Committee who prepared these slides and Finance, because I can read them. They have gone from the light blue that was almost impossible to read to the darker colors so that it all comes out on television as well as in the paper that we have. So thank you very much for the change in colors.
Thank you. Reza?
Mr. Hopkins, thank you for a very good report, excellent report. On the broadband, we are short. We are a fixed number of unit community. Is the membership dropped, or we expected more membership? Why we are short of that?
It's not as fixed as you may think it is, but there are a couple, the revenue streams consist of advertising revenue. And remember, we're comparing to budget also. So you may have budgeted something in and it didn't happen, or it's not going to happen until the following month.
Yeah, I forgot about advertising.
Yeah, advertising.
Okay. Now I know.
And then
Thank
the
you.
internet, there are people, as we said here, there are people that have decided to come back, draw back on the internet and speeds just for whatever reasons. And so that would be different than the expectation, which we think you would drive towards higher speeds. So again, it could be what was put into the budget with the expectation of people moving towards higher speeds versus what actually happened, or just the timing of it. That's why I say January is not an indicator. You know, we can't make assumptions, predictions on January.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Go to number 6. Your illustration number 6.
Okay.
Number 6.
Yes, I'll pull it back up.
Can you project that thing?
Yes.
On number 6?
On number 6,
Number 6.
you're talking about the percent of
Slide 6.
slide 6?
Yeah, number 6. I see the account, the amounts are given in percentages only.
Right.
Can you include the real numbers as well?
Yeah, I think the purpose of this slide, we can always do that, but the purpose of this slide, because we go actually through the numbers when we actually do the analysis, right? The purpose of this slide is to give an indication of just where in proportion we spend the money. And obviously, its majority is personnel expense. But that's the purpose of this slide.
I can calculate it, but
we can put the
easy to
numbers in
see.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we can put the numbers in there also. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and I'm sorry, but Director Dodson just suggested that in finance, we go through a pretty deep dive into these numbers. So it's available there. The purpose here is to give people a broad view. With the finance meeting, we go in pretty much detail.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? And so I believe the next is the finance report, correct?
Yes. Well, at the last meeting, actually, we had a special meeting, and then at the last meeting, we went through the January, we had a special meeting where we approved the ERP, the ITAC committee's report, and approved or recommended for approval, the ITAC proposal to move forward with the ERP installation. And that went on to an all-members meeting, and that was approved also. So that was the highlight of it. This last meeting we had, I think the highlight of the meeting was we had our investment advisor, Dan Quirk from Sageview, come in. And I know all of us have been a little bit concerned about the portfolio changes in our portfolio balances. And there are two sections, and he kind of explained it. There are two sections to our portfolio balance. One is the valuation of our portfolio, and then there's the yield of our portfolio, which is the the actual cash yield from it. Valuation does fluctuate from year to year, and he showed us some trends as to how it has fluctuated. Our goal is to have a safety, liquidity, and yield. And we think we're following all of those precepts. But it is a little bit concerning when you see our valuation start to take a dip the way it is. So we're taking a hard look at that, even considering have another ad hoc committee, which we haven't brought forward, ad hoc committee to take a look at, are we doing all the right things in terms of our safety, liquidity, and yield? But we've been not assured, nobody can assure you on investments, but we have been advised that, and shown through statistical information, that this trend for our government-backed bond funds is not unusual in these types of times. These times are unusual, but the yield has remained. In fact, the yield has actually gone up. The yield on our portfolio has gone up during this time. So yield means basically interest rate, and that's gone up. And but the valuation of the bond funds has actually gone down. So again, it's something that we're looking at and managing.
Thank you. Okay, that completes your finance report?
Oh,
That-
I'm sorry, the next finance meeting?
Okay,
Let's see, I missed that. Next finance meeting is sometime in April 20th. All right.
okay,
Sorry.
all right. So the next item would be strategic planning, Director Hobson. You have a question? Okay.
Yeah, a question, actually.
Mhm.
Thank you. I just want to go back to that new program that you voted in. I watched that meeting that you had. I don't remember hearing specifically about the effective finances, the management of finances, transitioning from the old system to the new system. If it actually, obviously it'll meet your needs of what was before, but I didn't hear about any enhancements that might come from that new program, and wondered if you can comment on that. And then a
Sure.
second question is about I heard several comments about the cloud and the safety of being on the cloud. I know we had a breach at one time, but I have to say in my mind that just being on the cloud itself doesn't provide safety. It seems like another opportunity for hacking, and I'd like you to comment on that too, please. Thank you.
Okay, let me take your first comment or question first. If you just talk about the finance, I think you were talking about the finance department and their operations. I think everyone has to keep in mind, I thought, and we tried to explain that in the past, where we could think of software being implemented and finance being the center of that implementation. In fact, in the past, I believe finance was the only enhancement, with everything else following up. The new world that we live in today basically takes an entire organization, obviously, and says, are we doing things at the optimum? Now, the end result is finance, the dollars and cents. And so finance has to be set in first, because believe it or not, you have to start with the end result in terms of what you want to see, how you want to see it, and how the rest of the organization brings into finance. So the specific answer to your question is yes, finance is going to be greatly enhanced, but it is the acceptor or receptor of all the other processes. And so once you have developed a good financial system which gives you all the information necessary, you then start with how do the other departments, service, resident services, all the other departments feed into that, so you have the information that you need to actually manage the business, the financial information, as well as the service information to manage your business. So it's much, much, much more than a financial. That's so much old school. It's much, much, much more. And you could say it's a process reorganization, if you will. But our processes here are good, but with the new software and new capabilities, it's going to be much improved. The other one was, safety, nothing is completely safe. I mean, I think we all know that. And there are bad guys working on whatever it is that we have, or the world has. There are bad guys working to destroy it. But in the past, for instance, we had everything on the ground, and we had actually redundant storage systems. And I think by all the standards that go back to 2000, we were doing pretty well. But the bad guys used technology. The bad guys used the technology that they had, where the software that they invaded us with actually stayed dormant for 2 weeks while it determined where our redundant pathways were. That particular thing is not possible with the cloud. The cloud is, you're talking Microsoft, Amazon, and they have multiple redundancies and multiple security systems within that. So it's going to be their responsibility to protect us as well as our own. So yeah, we're confident, but can we be 100% confident that something won't happen? Absolutely not. But we'll be in much better place, is where we'll be, much better place.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? So if no questions, we'll move on to the report for strategic planning. Director Dobson.
Thank you. And before I do that, I'd like to make a comment on cybersecurity as a whole. The advantage of the cloud is also the ability to get back up and running rapidly. Whereas when you have hardware, such as what happened with the malware incident, it took us a long time. In fact, we're still not even 100% from that intrusion. So the cloud, not only does Microsoft have redundancy through 2 different very large providers, but if something were to happen, we'll be back up and running within minutes rather than months. So that's what I want to say about cybersecurity, which, as most people know, that's my thing.
Can I just take, because you reminded me of something. I think what I'd like to also make sure that we all understand is that the tremendous effort that VMS went through to make that situation almost, for us, the residents, almost seamless. And yeah, we suffered, obviously, but when you go back and you take a look at what VMS had to go through to make it look like we were functioning normally within days, it was a tremendous effort, especially by the IT department, but every single department had to make the adjustment in order to keep us from feeling the full effects of a significant breach in the security. So I just, again, I take this opportunity to thank them, 18 months later, but thank them.
Yeah. Okay. So the Strategic Planning Committee meets every other month, and we met on January 10th, and I gave that report at our last meeting. Our next meeting is this coming Monday, March 7th, at 9:30 a.m. It'll be a hybrid meeting, both here and online on Zoom. And the agenda and the call-in information is on the calendars, which is at the lagunawoodsvillage.com. If you go to the top of the screen, there's always calendars. If you click on it, it will break it down by all meetings or your specific meetings. And any resident can click there to see the agenda and to see any information regarding the meetings. So please join us if you would like. Thank you.
Okay, the next item would be report of the Community Activity Committee. Director Horton.
Well, I don't have anything new to report. We didn't have a meeting last month. However, we are going to have our next meeting on March 10th, and it'll be in the boardroom and virtually. And that concludes my report, such as it is.
Thank you. So the next item is the Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee, and we meet quarterly. And the newest thing that I can mention is, has everybody seen the new pony in the What's Up?
Many.
Mini pony. So Yvonne was over there the other day and basically said he's quite an attraction. And there were, what, 30 people over there that were looking at the new pony. So what the new pony is going to be used for is for our up and coming, the word equine learning clinics that we will be having in the future. And we also, what will be happening in the future is these hosting clinics that will teach riding lessons. And our next meeting is, I think, another month away. I'm not quite sure what the date is for that. But I have to tell you, keep posted because something happens every month as far as the equestrian center. And, okay, you did mention on here, the next meeting would be March 30th at 1 o'clock. And it won't be a virtual meeting, it'll be a hybrid meeting. Okay, thank you. So the
Madam
next-
President,
Yes?
I suggest that we make the pony our mascot for the village. He's cute.
I think that would be great, Yvonne.
Yeah, it's a mini. May I point out to all the residents that are listening to please make a reservation to go over and look. We'll get a guided tour and get the whole Megillah, so to speak, of what goes on over there. And they would appreciate it too. Thank you.
All right. So the next item is the Revenue Resource Ad Hoc Committee, Director Horton.
Me again. Well, lots of good ideas have come at the Resource Committee. However, the research hasn't been completed on a lot of the stuff. And our next meeting is going to be March 8th at 2 o'clock, and it's going to be a Zoom meeting. We're having trouble finding a room. So anyway, I'm hoping that I'll have something good to report at the next CAC and or GRF meeting of some of our ideas. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And the next item is the report of Landscape Committee, Director Skillman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm really pleased to report that our meeting next Wednesday, March 9th, is going to answer a lot of questions that I've been getting over the last month because of the news that have gotten out about our tree project. We are going to have Bob Margette, who is our senior arborist there and is going to talk about it. Now, the tree thinning project is primarily in United, but the company reports to GRF. Our previous company, Arbor Pro, went out of business during the pandemic, and we now have a new one, but we use all of their information that they have in the computer system that they have by species and all of that. So that has all transferred over. So all of the people who are really vitally interested in the tree project can come to our meeting next week, and Bob and Kurt will be there to answer questions. Now, it is primarily United. There are 39 trees per acre in 79 trees per acre in United, and only 39 trees in Third. And that's because United's the oldest. It was the original, and when it was built, Cortese just threw in trees, groves and groves of trees, 50-some-5 years ago. And so that's why we're having problems now with overgrowth, et cetera. So if you're interested in the trees, come to our meeting next Wednesday. We're also going to have Donna, I never get her last name right, from the Third, who is in charge of their water project, who's going to talk about water usage and things that we can do agriculturally as well as in our homes for water. So it will be 1:30 here in the boardroom next Wednesday.
Okay. The next item would be the report of Maintenance and Construction Committee, Director Garkhofer.
Okay, we met on Wednesday, February the 9th, 2022. And the first item we discussed was the SCE Charge Ready project for EV cars, electric vehicle cars. And we decided on that is to let SCE continue their evaluation as long as we do not reach the point where we have to make a commitment by contract or there is any cost to us. So they're going to continue doing that until they're completed. We talked about moving some benches, and there's some 38 benches that need to be moved, and we're moving forward with that project, but nothing has been concluded as to who's going to do it or exactly when, but it'll be done soon. So we also looked at resident services, which is the area behind, on the other side of the hall here. And we're changing the space for the call employees that take the phone calls, to make it more amenable to the kind of work that they do. And the overall estimate for that is something just under $100,000. And we asked them to come up with a final and a conclusive cost estimate, or a bid, I should say. We discussed building e-feasibility, and that morphed into the fact that we're going to take a look at what's happening in the community center here, at all of the space that's available before we make any decision on that. We also brought up the golf driving range turf, and where we are there, we've got a cost estimate that looked rather large for the soil amendments, so we're going to discuss with landscape, get some some guidance from them as to whether or not we're doing the right thing. And that's where we are on the Maintenance and Construction Committee. Our next meeting will be in April, and I think it's going to be April 13th. Okay. We also met the last meeting of the Clubhouse Renovation Ad Hoc Committee was on Friday, January the 28th. Okay. We looked at some extensive videos of the various rooms in Clubhouse 1 that we are proposing to start working on. And the PowerPoint presentation showed a rendering of what each room, an idea of what the rooms would look like. We have decided to go with the same kind of color scheme that we use in Clubhouse 2. Then we also had a PowerPoint presentation of what's possible in sound attenuation, because we have two rooms in Clubhouse 2 that have very severe echoes, and so we got some ideas from staff on what could be applied, and they went all the way from $5,000 up to $50,000, and we're just showing the various technologies. We got a cost estimate for the window measurements at Clubhouse 1. Clubhouse 1 has 100 and some windows, and no one is going to bid on that. In other words, measure all the windows in order to place a bid for any windows that we replace. So staff has recommended, and we agreed in the committee, that we would find somebody to do that measurement of all of those windows. And that was about a $3,000 project. We're not going forward with it, but we have a cost estimate. On the Performing Arts Center, we're continuing with the beautification of the interior spaces. We're working on the kitchens. we're working on the billiard room, and we're working on the rehearsal hall. And that work is moving forward as we speak. We asked staff to look at the waste line running out of Clubhouse 1 because there was some question as to whether or not it was good, and it was found that indeed we ran a video, and indeed it is good, but we are entertaining the possibility of doing an epoxy lining to improve it and make sure that no corrosion occurs. That line, after all, is as old as the clubhouse, which is 50-some years. Okay. Then we had an additional interior space beautification PowerPoint presentation, and there was an updated commentary on the earthquake debate. We also had a task force that has identified a number of interior design consultants, and we're going to move forward with selecting one of those in the near future. And the next meeting is to be determined, but it'll probably be sometime after we have given the design consultants a tour of Clubhouse 1 so they can know what they're going to be looking at. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes?
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Come up to
Do you have any? It's me.
we need to have you come up to the podium.
My microphone.
It's Yvonne speaking.
Oh, I thought it was Karen. She kept looking at me going like this.
I'll go next.
Hi,
Hi.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Okay, Yvonne.
Egon.
Yeah.
Because it's come up at my CAC meeting several times, do you know or have an approximate time that the billiards room is going to be completed over at Clubhouse 1? Where they can go over there and start playing?
The billiards room in Clubhouse 1.
Oh, pack.
I mean,
is
the pack, excuse me.
Oh, I don't. But I'll tell you what, we're going to have a meeting with, I'll see Guy, and I'll check on that.
Okay.
And I will get back to you personally.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Meanwhile, if you really want to play billiards badly, there's a room in Clubhouse 1.
I know that, but
That's
they don't like to
available.
play there. They like to play over at the pack.
Okay, understood.
Okay.
Yes.
Karen, you had a question?
Yes, I have another question for you. Regarding the SCE project, I came home from vacation and saw equipment locked to poles and paint marks and things around our building. I had no idea what was happening. I wonder if just a brief explanation of what SCE is doing.
No, that would have nothing to do, they're not doing anything on the ground that I'm aware of. And also, if we were to do it, GRF, it would only be at the clubhouses and stuff, because we don't have any
Okay.
authority around buildings.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so if you got a deal like that, you have to call somebody at the mutual and ask
Okay,
them.
thank you.
You're welcome.
There is a Richard Rader that has a question via Zoom.
Okay.
Good morning. Egon, I believe you mentioned that you're having a design consultant come in, and but you also mentioned, I believe, that you had decided that you would keep the color scheme, I believe it was Clubhouse 1, as is. What I'm wondering is, are you open to letting the design consultant offer any insights or thoughts that may change our mind regarding the color scheme?
Of course. That's the purpose of having a design consultant. But what we're talking about is not Clubhouse 1, but the design palette, if you want to use that word, that they used in Clubhouse 2. And we think that has a very good Spanish look, and that's what our base point is to start with. Then we'll look at whatever else is recommended to us.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? So if there are no further questions, we'll move on to report of Media and Communications, Director Milliman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Media and Communications met February 22nd, it's last Tuesday. And, I'm sorry, not a very good communicator here. The usual reports were given by Broadband and Communications. Now, hit the highlights for you. Under Communications, Media and Communications Department tracked 71 different projects during the month. And the new Breeze is coming out, is already out, and it's great. And the next Breeze is going to have a featured article, Jim, listen up, on the new software project. So, and Debbie and Jim and, what's his name? Chuck are all working on this, and they're going to have it in hopefully by the end of the week. Anyway, full explanation for you should be in the Breeze. Docenters were placed on temporary hiatus due to COVID concerns. However, they are looking also for new docent volunteers, and that has been advertised in the Globe and on our What's Up in the Village. So please, if you're interested, please let us know. Under the broadband services report, Paul reported that on the 21 cable operation year-end report, and then also broadband services operation year-end report, and the broadband subscriber count, which is up as usual, the premium movie channels and consolidation of channels from West Coast to the West Coast feed. You know, before we were on two different feeds, East Coast and West Coast, and we are now being consolidated to the West Coast feed. There's one expiring contract with the Weather Channel, and it expires now, and it's in negotiations with NCTC, our negotiator for many HOAs. Our internet subscribers at the year end are up. Village Television Black History Month has been emphasized by several different movies. If you've been watching, they're great. Paul mentioned that in the compliance division asked broadband services to turn off subscribers' televisions for non-compliance, and one of the things we're going to work on is a charge to get them turned back on, because there was never a charge put in, and it's something that'll come up in GRF. One of the things that's going to be coming up soon is a community-wide survey, and Elise Rothrock reported on it, that after a meeting with all the presidents, the decision was made that perhaps this isn't the best time to put forth a general community satisfaction survey, so it's going to be on hold. However, there will be a survey, a questionnaire on information for strategic planning, and that the Strategic Planning Committee is going to be generating those questions during their March meetings. Okay. The website, Eileen reported on the ad hoc broadband committee regarding the franchise tax fees, which they're meeting on to discuss right now. We pay a franchise tax to the city of Laguna Woods, and that's in the process of discussion with the broadband group. The website is going to be upgraded, and Ms. Rothrock stated that the first ad hoc committee meeting will be scheduled for next week to select a vendor, because we're going to select a vendor to do it, and they've got several people who are interested and experts in that field to meet with them. And we'll be hearing about that very soon. And I mentioned that the docents are being recruited, and please, if you're interested, let us know. One more thing. We continue to repeat in media and communications the information that's needed, that is requested over and over again. And so one of the things that was decided in the meeting was to put links to popular questions. You know, everybody asks the same question many times, and when they get the same answers, and then they forget. And so we need to keep putting them out, not just for those who forget, but for those who are new. And so that's one of communications' jobs, is to make sure that everybody is clear on what is going on. So that's one of the things we attempt to do often. And you'll find it in the Globe, you'll find the answers in the weekly e-blasts, and when it gets really big and important, you'll find it in the Breeze. So our next meeting will be Monday, March 21st at 1:30 p.m., and I believe it's going to be a virtual meeting. Thank you, that's my report.
So, Joan, I wanted to ask you, do you want that to be virtual meeting? Because we had decided that after March 1st, we would go hybrid.
Okay, the next meeting's a hybrid meeting.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. All right, the next item would be the security and community mobility and vehicles, and then security and community access. Director Tibbetts.
Okay, thank you. In mobility and vehicles, we have a new staff member on board. It's Robert Carroll. He comes from the Recreation Department in Santa Ana. A very, very sharp guy, and we're very fortunate to have him. Robert attended our last meeting, his first, and gave us a comparison of ridership in 2021 compared to 2020, and we are slowly going up, as indicated in the first 2 months of this year. And we expect numbers to continue to rise unless COVID gets worse. The wellness route for medical destinations continues to be the most used transportation. Russell gave us an interview of our surplus GFR vehicles that we auctioned off last year, and they brought in a total of $170,000. And with that, part of that money and other money, we purchased 33 new vehicles. And as our last meeting, 20 of those vehicles have arrived, and I'm not sure what it is right now, but they will be here. And our next meeting is scheduled for April 6th at 1:30.
Thank you. And that's for the security, for the mobility? And then you have, move on to the security and community access.
Okay, and security and community access, we've had another big change here in the top leadership of that committee. Chief Carlos Rojas, as I'm sure you know by now, has moved up in the ranks, and with right under our CEO, and we met yesterday. It was a good meeting. We had excellent input from the audience members and the staff. Some of the items mentioned with that in the area of compliance, we still have some areas of concern, which include animal nuisance. People are letting dogs run loose, and a lot of dog barking at night. So security is going to work on that. We still have a lot of illegal alterations, and they are discovered at different times of the year. And when they are discovered, the people have to take them out and do it correctly, and that's a very expensive thing. We still have clutter in the carports and around the landscaping. And this is going to be cleaned up a lot better than it has been in the past. And you'll have to excuse my voice, I'm losing it again. And another item that we're still concerned about is illegal occupancy. We have a lot of adult children who are living with their parents, usually a single mother. And they have a tendency to wander around in the carports at night. The last ones who were stopped were adult children of residents. As Siobhan mentioned earlier, we have a daily perimeter check. Every area of our perimeter is checked. If there's any breaches in there, they are reported and fixed that day. Security, this is new, and it recommended that the street, Calle Sonora, that is a street that goes from El Toro up to Area 14. And I didn't know the name of it, but it's Sonora, Calle Sonora. And a lot of people, non-residents, park on those streets, and it is recommended that those people who they can park there, but they're going to have to pay for it. And we will send a recommendation to this board for your approval. Then we had a big discussion, a really good discussion on crosswalks and stop signs and two-way or four-way. 2 or 3 of the board members were there, and along with a lot of residents. And staff is going to look into all of your comments. I've been assured of that. And we will have a report at our next meeting, and from there, our recommendations will come to this board. And our next meeting is April 25th at 1:30. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So the next item is report of the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings. Director Addington.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam President, excuse me. As most of you out there in TV land know, the Traffic Committee is comprised of board members from GRF, United, Third, and the Towers. And it's available to people who are, who get tickets for allegedly driving over the speed limit or allegedly running through stop signs without stopping, or there's a various list of infractions here in the village that involve the safety of our community. And if you want to, if you don't think that the ticket was warranted, or if you want to throw yourself on the mercy of the court, as it were, you can sign up for one of these hearings. So our last one was on February 16th, 2022, and it was a virtual meeting. We had I'm going to stop right here and say, we used to have, I couldn't believe it, before the pandemic, we'd have 10, 12, 14 at a hearing, and now we're getting 2, 4. So either everybody stopped speeding, which is terrific, or nobody's asking for a hearing, but I think it's probably the latter. So this time we had 4 scheduled, and 2 of them were stop signs, and 2 of them were no license, and incidentally, you have to have a California driver's license on you when you're driving in the village. That's a rule everywhere in the state of California and here in the village. But we had 2 people that didn't have their, one person didn't have a license at all, and the other one was too busy to take it with her in the morning. So we had 2 stop signs, 2 licenses, and one of the stop sign people was also speeding. And one of the stop sign persons left. He got tired of waiting, and all the other were found guilty. There were 3 people found guilty of 4 offenses. So that was 1 speeding, 2 licenses, and 1 stop sign. And an educational time was had by all. So that concludes my report, except that our next traffic hearing is on the 16th of March at 9 o'clock, and it will be a virtual meeting. for some reason, but it says virtual, so thank you.
Okay. So are we going to keep that as, do you normally meet virtually?
Before the pandemic, we did it right here, and it was
Okay.
wonderful. And you could see the videos, and the folks could come in here and have a comfortable place to wait. But now
Yeah.
it's virtual as far as I know, and hopefully it's going to change. But
So I'm thinking that this should probably be changed to hybrid.
I haven't heard, have you heard about that?
It says hybrid in the report.
Yeah, they
well,
they
if
were
it's
going to
a-
go to hybrid, is
I'm
what I
sorry,
heard.
I just read that wrong. I didn't think it said, maybe I was
It
just,
it does say virtual, but I just
yeah.
wanted
Date of
to.
next meeting, I'm sorry, page.
Well, you can
One or
call it
two,
whatever you want.
14
I don't
each.
care, but as far as I know, it's
Hybrid.
virtual.
Oh, I know that, but I wanted to make the correction here, okay, and it be noted so that the audience will know the traffic hearings will be hybrid rather than virtual.
Should
And
we
it's-
call somebody who knows?
Well, Mr. Frankel had asked as soon as we were able to come back into the boardroom
Oh,
that they be moved to live plus. They want to keep the hybrid, the Zoom component in case a resident wants
Right.
to state their case. That was not the last meeting, but the meeting
The
before.
meeting before, the one.
Yeah, so my
I know he
understanding
asked
was.
it, but,
Yeah.
but did anybody tell you they were, I mean, I don't care, I just don't want
Well,
people showing up if.
I don't recall at what meeting, whether it was at our agenda prep, but we decided that after March 1st, we would go back to the hybrid for all meetings.
All meetings.
Fine with me,
Yeah,
I mean, I hate
okay.
virtual.
I believe there's an error in these where it says all virtual because we did make that change.
Yeah.
May I make a comment about the
Okay.
traffic?
Okay.
And also Director Tibbetts. So speeding has become even worse than ever in our community. And that is why we had a long conversation about it in the security meeting yesterday, which, by the way, is available on Granicus. If anybody wants to hear the comments, several members of the Vision Club were here as well. And one of the things that Chief Rojas mentioned was that we are giving out a lot of tickets. There is going to be, they hadn't been giving out as many between 6 and 10 miles over, but they are starting in January and February, they have done that. They also said that most people are paying their tickets, and that's why you're not seeing them at the traffic hearings. But there are a lot of speeding tickets being generated here. But the overall goal is slow down and 25 miles an hour. And we don't use California stops at our stop signs. We use full stops, look all the way, because a resident did comment yesterday who's on a corner about the rolling of the stops where he sits outside and counts them. So anyway, Chief Rojas was very good about answering all the questions that were asked yesterday. But the moral of this story is between security and traffic hearings, slow down, please, and stop at stop signs. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dotson.
Okay. All right, Egon?
So, Elsie, why don't you make it a part of the traffic hearing to publish the total number of tickets given in the previous month? And we'll keep track of that, like we do other things, to indicate what the trend is.
Okay,
All right?
Okay, Reza?
That was my comment, that we should have the statistic, what the total number of tickets, who paid. I think that should be in the, security side.
I was gonna say, what's that got to do with the
Yeah,
hearings?
exactly.
I mean, I'll
That-
get
that
it,
should
but
be- that should be
I don't
part of the-
care.
I believe there was a total number of tickets provided in the materials yesterday, if I recall.
Yeah, but it should indicate that how many people paid, how many people went to the court.
So that would
Because
be
those are
that
all the
committee,
statistics
right?
gonna help.
Yeah, do it in that, I mean, I don't care, I'll do it in, but it'll be twice.
Well, I've been on the traffic committee for quite a while, and I can tell you
Okay.
that we have very few people show up for the hearing, so most people must be paying.
Okay. I can see we have a Randall Damron that would like to speak. Would he like to see his hands raised? Can we contact him?
He removed himself.
Oh, okay, all right. Are you wanting to speak again, Karen? Okay.
About the safety here too. I'm just wondering if there's any rule about the people who walk in the street. I find it frightening living on the curve of Calle Sonora where everything's a turn and people don't seem to mind walking in the street and cars can come right at them.
What you're saying is the people do not walk in the crosswalks?
They don't walk on the sidewalks, they walk
On
on
the
the street.
sidewalks.
And there's always a sidewalk available. But they don't cross over to them, they walk in the street on a curve.
Yes, there's a rule that they're not supposed to walk in the street.
Oh, well, maybe we can get more tickets on that. It happens every day.
No, there are jaywalking, I agree with that comment, because there are a lot of people that walk on the street rather than sidewalk. I have talked to some of them that I saw, especially at Gate 11. I told them that we have sidewalk, don't come to the street, because if somebody doesn't see you, especially at night, we don't have very good vision after 55, and we might hit you, so please stay on the sidewalk.
Thank you. All right.
It's a bad habit from the COVID. It's a bad habit from social distancing. If that's a problem, just stop and wait for them to pass, but stay on the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. So if there are no further comments, we will go to the next item, which is disaster preparedness, Director Skillman.
Thank you, Madam President. Disaster preparedness met in January. We meet quarterly, so our next meeting will be March 29th at 9:30, and it will be a hybrid meeting. We're still looking for good neighbor captains, both in United and Third, and we will be putting out a calendar list of the different classes that we will have, trainings that we will have for those at that meeting.
Thank you. And the next item is Information Technology Advisory Committee, Director Hopkins.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. The ITAC committee meets weekly, and as we've talked about it before, it's made up of IT professionals and folks with senior level implementation experience to put this together. The intention is to stay ITAC to stay intact through the implementation period, which we think will last maybe 2 to 2.5 years. Just recently, we reviewed the scope of work that came in from the vendor that's going to be responsible for implementation. We're still in the process of evaluating that, and that will then turn into the paperwork and contracts and purchase orders and things that we will need for our internal process. And last but not least, it was a good question that came up about the finance, about the finance, how is finance going to change as a result of that? And it just occurred to me that in the old days, 60s, 70s, finance or accounting was the only, quote, software system in most companies. Since then, and I think the term came in 1990, ERP, but it went through several transitions where most people don't know that an ERP is an enterprise resource planning system. It is not a financial system. It is there to plan all the resource and to account for all the resources used in a particular company or institution. And so it is a monumental task. It's a big task that we have, that we're attacking now, because we're essentially, we want to go paperless. We want to go, that is the goal, to be paperless, which means all the information flow has to be in some digital format. And so there is a transformation of how we do business, and it's going to result in significant efficiencies within everything that we do. So we're looking forward to it, and we are going to stay intact ITAC will stay intact through the installation period. And our next meeting is Friday. We meet every week. Actually, we're going to get together and we're bringing in comments on the scope of work Wednesday. So we're actually working between weekly meetings. We're working between weekly meetings. So we're earning our salaries. I shouldn't joke like that.
No, we don't get paid.
We don't get paid.
We do it for the love, for all the love we get.
It's,
huh?
yeah, for all the love we get. And thank you, that's my report.
Personally, I can't wait until we start and roll out, because it's going to be such a tremendous advantage, benefit not only to the employees, but to the residents too. So,
Madam Chair, Director Troutman would like
Okay.
to speak. I'm sure she's speaking on disaster preparedness.
okay, Judith?
Yeah, now can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. I'd like to clarify one thing. The disaster preparedness meeting does not meet quarterly. We meet 6 times a year. We meet on the odd months only on the 4th, or not the 4th, the last Tuesday of odd months. And sometimes there's 4 Tuesdays in a month. So we don't want to say the 4th Tuesday. And to emphasize the need for good neighbor captains, in a natural disaster, the residents, the first residents that will get the help they need from the first responders will be residents that have a good neighbor captain assigned to their building. We have in the community 2,584 residential buildings. And right now we only have 200 good neighbor captains or 200 buildings covered. So we're like 2,500 buildings that aren't covered with a good neighbor captain. That's how much in need we are. So there will be more stuff coming out in the Globe and on the TV6 for recruitment that hopefully Juanita's helping with. And so I just wanted to clarify that the need, serious need, because I'll just say one thing that came from Earthquake Country Alliance is the level of preparedness before a disaster hits will be directly proportional to your quality of life for hours, days, and even months after the disaster. And if you keep that in mind, you'll understand the importance of being prepared. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So the next item is the future agenda items, which we have none at this time. Are there any director comments? Okay. Debbie?
Yeah, I just want to follow up with all of the discussion regarding the new ERP and the ITAC work. There is going to be an article in the Village Breeze in the next edition that will outline all the different things that are going to be positively affected by this new system. So it will be there, and of course, we're always happy to answer specific questions. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? So if there are no further comments, we will recess, have lunch upstairs, which is prepared for us. Okay. Do you have a comment, Kira? I can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I just wanted to say that I don't feel I got an answer to my question, which I actually posed twice. I can see that this is not a popular concept to talk about, but I'm talking about policy that GRF holds. And it's obviously triggered some emotion in some people, but I'd like to be able to concentrate on the policy. And my question, I'd like to repeat, if that's okay, is that I'm asking, do the Recreation Department policies permit clubs to exclude residents in good standing from attending events advertised to residents that are held in our community facilities.
Point of order.
Yes?
Can I,
You do have positive word, can I
can
find
I,
that?
if I can respond?
I don't know who said point of order.
I did.
Okay.
What's your point of order?
Elsie, what's your point of order?
Well, it's not time for, it's not time to hear from we already had members' comments, right?
Yes, we did.
And we already had directors' comments. And you already said we're gonna adjourn and have a recess, and I thought that's where we were. I thought that's the order that we were in.
And that's really true, but the president can't allow someone to
Oh,
come
I'm
up and
sorry,
speak.
then.
Yeah,
I apologize.
yeah, that's okay. All right, Jim?
Yeah, I think the answer, and maybe we went the long route, but the answer was yes. Yes, a club can do certain things, okay, and it is within the GRF policy. That's what I heard.
Okay, but the
I'm not an
question is.
expert there,
Yeah.
so you asked the question,
Uh-huh.
and the answer was, yes, it can.
Yes, it can exclude residents in good standing, and is that in
The
policy
way,
someplace?
the way that you state it is still yes. You state it as an opinion that you disagree with, and you have the right to do that. But the answer, whether you accept it or not, was yes.
I'm happy to accept an answer, but maybe someone can send it to me where it
Okay, I'm
is
going to
located.
comment
Can I
on
say
this.
something?
GRF is not going to write a policy in regards to any kind of mask policy, and that's what you're asking for.
A what policy?
A mask policy.
I
We do
didn't
not
mention
have a
masks.
mask policy.
I didn't-
We
I
do
didn't
not
mention
have a
masks.
vaccination policy.
Okay.
And we won't be writing any.
No, mine had to do with being allowed to utilize their contractual rights to
That has nothing to
community
do with it.
facilities.
May
Well,
I
that's
You're
what
just
my question is.
rewording something. It has all to do with vaccinations and whether they can come in with a vaccination or, the other that they're requiring. So that's the focus on that, and GRF is not going to be writing any policy regarding that.
Well, I'm not asking for anything about vaccines. I mean, whether you have a vaccine or not, people can still object to being asked for their medical information. And that's what I'm bringing to this board today.
Okay, Joan?
If I can,
I want to say that if a club makes a policy, if a member's in good standing, but they don't follow the club's policy and they're a member of the club,
Right.
then the club can enforce the policy,
Exactly.
that's all.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but it's in direct conflict
It
with
is not in
GRF
conflict. It's not
providing
in
for a
conflict.
welcoming, inviting atmosphere.
And a member, a club member, can make a request for a change if it's a reasonable request.
I agree. Those boards are the ones who are.
They have to enforce it.
Are accepting what some of their members want. Whether they want it or not, they're accepting what some of their members want.
It's up to that board.
You're right. It is
You
the
understand?
board.
It's up to that board, unfortunately. That's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
We don't dictate to a club what their policy is. For example, Kiwanis Club might not admit people who weren't Kiwanis members, even though they were residents in good policy. That's not the case, but
Right.
that
I
sort of
came,
thing.
yeah, I came here today because I was trying to, I know I am working with a large group of people in the community that are feeling the way I do, that they're feeling excluded from their right to be able to go places. And the reason I came to this board, I'm sorry, Debbie, I'm really disturbing you, and
You
your
are
head shaking.
disturbing
But we
everyone.
need
the
to have
reason
a
I
point of
came-
order here.
There is a point of order. I'd like to call it. That was
Okay.
what I was going
So
to say.
I
This
don't
is
want
not
any
a
more
debate.
further discussion on this or debate. You've already been given an answer, several answers.
Thank you.
And so I think we need to end it.
Thank you. I'm
Now,
just saying, the
thank
reason
you.
I came to this board is
We're
because there are
going to
people
end
that
this
want
conversation
to
now.
bring these conflicts to the various clubs.
Karen, you've been given your time, and you've been given extra time, and you've been given an answer. So we have to close the meeting, okay? Thank you. Are there any other director comments? Okay, raise it.
I'm just going to say one thing, and I don't want any more discussion on that.
Okay.
The clubs are private, they have membership, they get paid, and they make the rules. And if the club, one of the member not included in there, got nothing to do with the GRF.
Right.
It's their policy. They have board and they have everything. They set up the rules. So there is no business for GRF to impose that you have to do this or that. We
That's
have a
right.
set of policy, and the club said they follow our policy, but they have their internal policy, and we have no say in there.
Right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, did you have a comment, Yvonne?
No, my back hurts. I'm standing.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is there anyone else that has any comments? If there's no more comments, then we will recess to the Willow Room and have our lunch and then our closed meeting. And I just want to thank all the board members to be here today. This was wonderful.
Look at us all here.
Yes, thank you. Was I too strong?
Goodbye.